We're going to wait for a moment, please. Okay. Ferdinand, please, you can proceed with your presentation, whatever you want.
I'm here. Thank you. Thank you. Let's start the presentation. Okay. Here it is. Oh. Okay, good morning all. Well, nice to meet you all online, and it's great that we can meet together in this way, but I really hope we can meet in real life again next year, because if only because we cannot meet in person afterwards, and it's nice to have a chat. And we also have to miss the nice tapas and some good wines to celebrate the year. So I really hope next year will be better. Well, in the next approximately half an hour, I would like to tell you more about the results of our continuous holiday research and the results for Spain in particular. And before we go to the figures, let's take a quick look at the background of our research in order to understand how the numbers were established. Well, every year, NBTC NIPO Research conducts a large-scale study into the holiday behavior of the Dutch population. Well, the results of this continu vakantieonderzoek, as we mentioned it in Dutch, are presented annually in an extensive report with a detailed description of the development and trends in the holiday market. In our research, a holiday is defined as a stay away from home for relaxation or pleasure with at least one overnight stay. And staying with family, friends, or acquaintances abroad is also considered to be a holiday. Well, the results relate to holidays which are undertaken between the period October 2019 and September 2020. So the first months of the research were more or less without corona effects, and that's important to notice. 4 times a year, our respondents are asked about their holiday behavior in 3 months periods prior to their study. The sample used for this study consists of more than 8,000 inhabitants of the Netherlands, and because of the size of this sample, we can draw conclusions that are representative for the Dutch population. And as a result, we can make reliable statements about the travel behavior of the Dutch. Later on, I will compare the results for Spain to competitive countries like Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Turkey. Okay, now we know something about the background. Let's go to the results for the holiday year 2020. And I have to warn you a little bit because this was by far the most strange and also the most dramatic year we've ever seen in more of 22 years of existence of our research. And to clarify how the corona pandemic influenced people's travel behavior, I would like to tell you something about my own holiday year. I think that makes all the situation completely clear. Well, in my family, Spain is the #1 holiday destination for many years. And after 3 years visiting the beautiful island of Gran Canaria, we decided to go to Mallorca. Since we have 2 small kids, we don't want to be in the plane for 4 hours. And Mallorca is really a nice destination for us. In January, we booked 2 weeks for the late summer period in September. And at that time, I already heard about the COVID from one of my colleagues in China. But I think, as most of you, I was not afraid for a similar situation in Europe. In March, it was clear that we were all wrong and the corona pandemic was a fact. But we still thought that, well, within a few months it will be over and our summer holiday is not in danger. Let's see what's not working. In June, things returned a bit to normal and we were really looking forward to our holiday. Well, in August, we saw the situation changing again. And if it was possible to go, we didn't want to go because how's the local situation? And what if we could go back to Holland with 2 small kids? Well, long story short, we ended up with a holiday in the Dutch province of Limburg. And it was also nice, but you can see some small differences between the picture on the left and the picture on the right. And this was even the best photo I could find about the location. So I really hope next year will be better. Well, this example shows that the corona outbreak had an incredible impact on the tourism industry. National as well as international restrictions, uncertainty, but also fear influence people's travel behavior. And when we look at the results of our study, we see the impact of the pandemic clearly coming back. And the impact can be seen in the following trends and developments. The first trend, fewer Dutch went on holiday last year. Well, due to travel restrictions and uncertainty, fewer Dutch people went on holiday in the 2020 holiday year. Holiday participation among the Dutch has decreased for the first time in years due to the corona pandemic. And during holiday year 2020, 7 out of 10 people have been on holiday, compared to 8 out of 10 in normal years. And as international travel was limited most of the year, most of the Dutch only went on a domestic holiday. You can see that over here. And the Dutch who went on a vacation also did this less often. On average, Dutch people went on holiday just over 2 times a year. You see, last year it was almost 3 times. And compared to previous years, the Dutch more often undertook just 1 holiday a year. But the number of Dutch people who went on holiday for 4 times or more strongly decreased. And as a result of a lower participation and a lower frequency, the total number of holidays shows a strong decrease for the first time in many, many years. In total, the Dutch undertook about 28.4 million holidays in the past year, which is a decrease of almost 30%. And here we can see the second trend. The Dutch undertook significantly less holidays abroad. The number of international holidays almost halved compared to the number of domestic holidays, which show a slight decrease of 5%. And this is really important. And it's all about the restrictions. It's all about the possibility to travel, but the impact of halving the holidays abroad is significantly for the whole sector. Okay, let's take a closer look to the outbound market in general before we move on to the results for Spain. Looking at the outbound market, the first thing we see is that although both the number of short-term as well as long-term holidays abroad has decreased heavily, the share of short-term holidays increased. In other words, the difference between the number of short-term and long-term holidays became smaller. And that's also the third trend we noticed. On average, the Dutch undertook more short holidays, and that affects at least the expenditures, and we'll see that later on. But the corona pandemic not only affected the number of holidays, but also the choice of means of transport, especially by plane. Public transport and organized travel have not operated all year. In addition, the corona outbreak also affects travelers' attitudes to these modes of transport. And due to all travel restrictions, there were less air traffic, and the number of holidays by plane fell by almost 59%. 59%. And as a result, the share of car holidays increased, the fourth trend we noticed. And it's for the first time in years that we see that there are more holidays by car than by plane. And we already noticed that the number of international holidays by the Dutch almost halved. And when we take a closer look to the regions, we see that specifically the number of holidays to the Mediterranean region has strongly decreased as a result of the corona pandemic, 63%. It's really, really a lot. The category Other Europe relatively shows the smallest decrease as the travel restrictions have not been the same for all European countries. For example, Austria was quite accessible throughout the year, and also Dutch people undertook holidays closer to home, so preferably in the countries that are surrounding us like Belgium, Germany, and a bit more far away, France and Austria. Throughout the year, various travel restrictions were in effect, and as a result, the top 10 destinations have changed compared to previous years. But there's a huge decline for almost all countries, and it's clear that when the Dutch go abroad, they visit a country that is relatively close to home, like Germany or France. And Austria was open and accessible for a relatively long period, and therefore is now included in the top 3 destinations. And we already saw a huge decline in the number of holidays for the Mediterranean area. And if you take a closer look, we can see this on the specific numbers for countries in that area. For Spain fell from the top 3 destination to the number 5, but also for Greece and Italy, the decreases are tremendous. And Turkey is even not even in the top 10 anymore, when it was a very popular sun destination for the Dutch in the last years. Okay, we now know the main developments on the Dutch market, and they were not very positive, and I think you already expected that. Now we move on to the results for Spain in particular. Just a quick summary. Well, during the year, there were many travel restrictions due to the corona pandemic, and as a result, the total number of outbound holidays undertaken by the Dutch almost halved. We saw that on the previous slides. In total, the Dutch undertook 11.7 million outbound holidays, of which almost 1 million to Spain. And therefore, the market share of Spain decreased also a few percent to 8.5%. And we saw a huge decline for the Mediterranean area. And if you take a closer look to the competitive countries, you can clearly see the effects of the corona pandemic. Where Spain and Italy show a decrease of about 60%, we see an even stronger decrease for Greece and especially Turkey. And the decline for Portugal is a bit smaller, as this country was accessible for a relative long period compared to the other countries. In our research, we also look specifically at the different regions in Spain. And you can see them here on the map. And if we take a closer look and we look at the number of holidays in the different regions, we see that the Canary Islands, Valencia and Andalusia region together account for almost 75% of all Dutch holidays to Spain. And the Canary Islands remain the most popular region. The samples used to define the holidays to the Balearic and the North Spain area is this year that small that results are only indicative. So the amount of people that went on holiday to those regions is that small that it was not enough to provide a reliable result. So these results are indicative. If we take a look at how the trips are organized or self-arranged, we see that package tours remain popular when booking a trip to Spain. 4 out of 10 trips are still traditional package tours. And the tailor-made trips are also popular, but not as popular as in Portugal, where more than 4 out of 10 holidays are tailor-made trips. The far majority of trips to Spain are booked online, 88%. So almost 9 out of 10 bookings were made online. And that's really a huge amount. When booking online, most trips are booked through a tour operator or directly via the airline. Travel agencies are the most important booking methods for offline bookings. The travel restrictions following the corona outbreak had a major impact on the outbound holiday market, especially in the period April and June. The restrictions made it almost impossible to travel to other countries. And compared to competing countries, winter is still a popular season to visit Spain. Of course, when it's possible due to the restrictions. And of course, also for the regions, the period April-June was almost impossible due to the travel restrictions. But the summer period also shows a different pattern as a result of the start of the second corona outbreak. And when looking at the types of accommodation, we see that most holidays in Spain are spent in hotels or motels, followed by apartments. And in Italy, camping holidays are more popular among Dutch holidaymakers compared to the other destinations. And this is quite similar to the results we saw in previous years. So not much has changed when choosing the accommodation. Like other years, we see that most Dutch holidaymakers in Spain and competing countries undertake beach holidays and city trips. And also here, nothing changed really. As the number of holidays to Spain decreased by more than 60%, the total expenditures of Dutch holidaymakers in Spain also strongly decreased from 2.2 million in 2019 to 672 billion in 2019 to 670 million this year. Not all facilities, for example, restaurants, were open during the whole year, and in combination with an increased number of short holidays, the average spendings per person shows a decline. It was 790 euros last year and 673 euros this year. Okay, that were the numbers for last year. And now we know the past. I think it's interesting to look forward to this year. And therefore, I would like to tell you something more about our holiday sentiment monitor. And since May 2020, we're researching the impact of the corona outbreak on travel behavior. And in our research study, we are not only looking at Dutch holidaymakers, but also at travelers from the countries surrounding the Netherlands, like Belgium, Germany, and the UK, but also travelers from more faraway destinations like China and the USA. Now, first of all, we look at the holiday intention. Do people have plans to go on holiday in the coming months or the coming year? And where do they want to go? And here you see the results from the last measurement a couple of weeks ago. And the holiday intention in our research consists of people who indicate they have booked a holiday, people that have plans but not booked yet, and people that have plans but they have a travel voucher. And despite the current situation, traveling remains an important aspect for most of the people. In the Netherlands and Belgium, 7 out of 10 people intend to go on holiday this year, while in other European countries, even 3/4 of the people indicate they intend to go on holiday. And that's really a positive thing. So despite the corona situation, you can clearly see that travel is really important for people. And when it is possible, they do have plans to go away. And when looking at the different categories, we see that overall, almost half of the people have holiday plans, but not booked yet. And that is difficult to see because it's always the question if that the intention will become real in bookings. And the share of actually booked holidays is still very low. In almost all European countries, the percentage of actually booked trips lies below 20%. And strikingly enough, in the United Kingdom, where the situation was very critical at the moment we did this measurement, 1 in 4 people have already booked an holiday. And in America, almost 1/3 of the people indicate to only go on holiday next year. And that is because of the situation is there quite different compared to the situation in Europe. And what you see clearly here is that China, the situation already became a bit more normal. So their holiday intention is quite higher compared to Europe and even more higher compared to the situation in America. And here's the most positive point from my presentation. For those that have the intention to go on holiday this year, Spain remains the most popular European holiday destination for 2021. And this applies not only to Dutch people with holiday plans, but also to people with holiday plans from other countries. And also other Mediterranean countries such as Greece and Italy remain popular, although significantly less popular than Spain. And if we look at the changing attitude of people towards travel on holidays, we see that the corona outbreak continues to have a major impact on holiday behavior. We see that the choice of the holiday destination is affected by the corona. People prefer to stay closer to home for their next holidays. And also more last-minute bookings are expected. 6 out of 10 say they book their holidays shorter in advance than they usually do. And also people expect to go less on holiday. And people expect to go on holiday less often, and 2 out of 3 people expect to go on holiday less often this year. That was in short the results from our continuous holiday research, which were quite dramatic, not only for Spain, but for all countries. I hope to give you some positive feelings by presenting the results from our holiday sentiment monitor, which clearly indicates that travel is still important and Spain is really an important destination for those who want to travel this year to Europe or abroad. Thank you for your attention and enjoy your meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Ferdinand. We are going to open now a Q&A session. And then if you want to put a question, you can write it down in the chat in English or Spanish, no problem. And I'm going to begin, first of all, saying sorry because I didn't present you properly.
No problem.
Ferdinand works for the NBTC. It's like the Tourist Spain in the Netherlands, and it's on the department that makes this kind of studies or analysis about the market as emisor of tourists abroad and to the Netherlands as well, I think. And well, it's a person that has a lot of insights about how the market is going, and we can ask questions to him, and surely he can answer them. Then I'm going to begin with one question, because something that I've been surprised reading this data is that we have, as you probably know, our institute there in Spain that publishes the data from tourists from abroad that visit us, and the numbers change. We count, for example, for 2019, almost 4 million visitors from the Netherlands, 3.7, I think, and you count only 2.5 million. Though the difference is less in the case of the pandemic year in 2020, because you have counted almost 1,900,000, and it's almost the same figure in the case of the Spanish statistics, the visitors from Netherlands. I think probably is everything in statistics is it depends on the size of the sample and many factors and how it is measured, the flux. But I think we measured the arrivals at the airports and at the borders, and maybe the increase on travel by car may be something to do. But I want to ask you about these differences.
Yeah, well, that's a question we get on a regular basis, and it's right what you already mentioned. Differences in research outcomes are mainly caused by the research setup, and like you mentioned before, you're measuring at the borders or at the accommodations or whatever, and our research is a so-called panel research. So we have a panel which is measured 4 times throughout the year, that consists of the same people, that is representative for the Dutch population, and that's something different than measuring travel or tourists at the border or at accommodations. So there's always a discrepancy between the results, and that is mainly because of the setup. It's completely different, and there's it's not to say that the one is true or the other one is completely wrong. It's both good, but you have to keep in mind how the research was set up to interpret the results very well.
Yeah, but my guess is that probably it has to do with traveling by car, because last year, surprisingly, the figures are almost the same. And I think it's because the representativeness of the traveling by car has increased. And then because normally, if you when the travel by plane was dominant, this difference exists because I think many people that travel to France, for example, they can answer your questionnaire saying that their main destination was France, but in part of their travel, maybe go through the north of Spain or Catalonia, etc. And then it's in our contability, it represents a visitor from the Netherlands, and then it's counted like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that is I think when hearing your story, I think this is the most important reason to see changes and to see quite similar results this year.
Okay.
And
one more practical question.
Yes.
It's for our promotion or for our destinations here. Is what about our possibility to compete in a changing environment in which the travel by car is increasing with destinations like Austria, the northern of Italy, etc.? Do you think
how to compete with?
Yeah, the thing is that last year we lose this market share of almost 3 points because of Italy and Austria being more visited, and I think it's proximity, but not in the case of Italy, for example, because we are more or less at the same distance, even nearer.
Well, yeah, I understand. Well, the difficulty is that the Canarian Islands are quite popular for Dutch, and it's difficult to reach them by car. So that is a critical point. I think what we see now is that the car is becoming more popular, and people are also willing to travel further away by car, since it is not possible to travel by plane. And the attitude from towards flying by plane is changing. People don't like to sit with more than 100 people in just a small plane. It doesn't give them a comfortable feeling. We see that in the holiday sentiment monitor, which we measure that feeling through a statement. So the car is becoming more popular as a means of transport, and people are willing to travel with it also further away. And that's interesting for Spain, because it is not difficult for Dutch people to travel to Germany or Belgium or even France and Austria. But we see now that they really have the intention to go further, and that makes also Spain interesting as a holiday destination, or still interesting, although the planes are not flying or they don't want to go by plane. So I think it's good to in your promotion, for example, to show that also Spain is an accessible country by car.
Mm-hmm.
And to give that feeling, because Spain is now more or less known as a destination that you where you want to go by plane, but it is also accessible by car. And like you said before, if you go to the south of France, it is quite easy to go to the north of Spain as well. And I think you have to promote that more.
Okay, thank you very much, Ferdinand. Any more questions? Someone from the audience wants to ask? Si queréis preguntar en español en el chat, ningún problema, lo moderamos nosotros, o sea que, y si queréis hacerlo públicamente, ningún problema.
Yo tengo una pregunta.
Uh-huh.
I don't mind speaking English or Spanish. It's I want to ask about the specific product, the cycling. In Ignacio's presentation, he talks about the infrastructures to carry out this activity are more developed than in the other areas of proximity. Is there any a study to find out what we need to be more competitive or something like this?
Yeah, very interesting question. Because many destinations in Spain has this problem. They are making efforts to improve the infrastructures for cycling, but if they can know what is in the mentality or in the desires of the Netherlanders to go.
Well, of course, it's a cliche, but cycling is quite popular among the Dutch. I have to check the results because I don't know them by head, but we measure also the activities people do in specific countries, and I can check how popular cycling is in Spain compared to the other competitive countries. And I will send you that information to you, Ignacia. Is that good?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sounds great.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Any more questions? Okay, Let's see if in the chat someone is writing something, or we'll give some time. Okay, if not, it's 11:30. It's been a very useful presentation. Thank you very much, Ferdinand.
Thank you. No problem.
We are going to continue now with our meeting with the destinations, but we have to close the transmission through the YouTube channel. And thank you very much to the audience that has followed us through the YouTube channel.